What's up, travelers? Prince Nick's coming to you from the Centerverse. I'm out here downtown Houston at Discovery Green. And today I want to talk about taking massive amounts of actions. And I want to talk about some of the reasons we don't take action and how we can overcome them. So let's get right into it. So I want to talk about taking massive action today because this is one of the biggest things that every business has to do. That's take massive amounts of action. And I mean massive amounts of action. If you're not taking massive action, it's going to be hard for you to set yourself apart from your competitors. So I was recently reading a book called The Talent Code by Daniel Coyle. And in this book, they conducted an experiment with a group of fifth graders. Now, in this experiment, the group of fifth graders, they were put through a series of tests. The researcher by the name of Dr. Charles Dweck, he took these fifth graders and put them through 3 tests. Now, on the first test, it was a relatively easy test, and they gave the students their results. Now, with those results, they told the two groups of students 2 different things. One group of students, they told them that they must have worked hard. In the second set of students, they told them that they must be intelligent. Now, he gave them a second test. But on the second test, he gave them a choice between taking the difficult test and the easy test. Now, the students that were told that they work hard, they chose to take the harder test. While the students that were told that they were smart or they were more intelligent, they chose to take the easy test. Now, he gave them a third test, which was an equally difficult test. And they all did poorly. All the students did poorly. But the only difference was that the students that were told that they work harder, they didn't really get mad. They enjoyed the test, they enjoyed the challenge. While the students that were told they were intelligent, they didn't enjoy the test, they didn't like it. Now, what's telling is when they went back to the first test, the students that were told that they work harder, their scores went up by 30%, while the students that were told they were more intelligent, their scores went down by 20%. Now, this is very telling, and I want to emphasize why this is important when we talk about taking massive amounts of action. And we look at the students that were told they were more intelligent, they built up an identity or they built up some type of ego around being intelligent. So when they were asked did they want to take the harder test or the easier test, they ultimately chose the easy. So we can see how building an ego around the action you take can limit the amount of action you want to take. Now, let's use the example of making 50 calls, or you set a goal to make 50 calls in one day. Now, setting this goal, you start off with the first call, and maybe it goes horrible, or even worse, maybe it goes well. Now, when it goes well, everything the client says, you have a reason, any objection they have, you have an answer for it, everything's working. You're in rare form. Now, on the second call, the same thing. Back-to-back calls, you're closing. Seems like every time you call somebody, you got the magic touch today. Always be closing, right? Now, on the third call, what happens? You call on the third call and you're completely rejected. Now, you might say after this, well, I'm done for the day. I've called enough. I did good. I closed 2 calls and that's enough work for the day. Maybe I can start up again tomorrow. But the reason you're doing this is because you've built up an identity around the idea of being a closer. Now, wanting to close or building up an identity of anything limits the amount of action you want to take. And this is similar to the idea of the inconsistency biases, which is one of the 25 cognitive biases, which makes us want to be consistent to the identity that we already have built up in our head. So if you built the identity of being a closer, you don't want to make more calls because why? You're a closer. Now, being able to remove ourselves from that identity allows us to take massive amounts of action because we're never looking at the actual situation and we're only doing things for the action itself. Getting into the process, we allow ourselves to separate ourselves from the ego and allow us to ultimately take more action or massive amounts of action. So to wrap this up, I hope you can see how removing your identity from the actions you take will allow you to take massive amounts of action. Because if you're not taking massive amounts of action in your business, you're not going to be able to do much. You're not going to be able to move very much. Now, taking that 1 call a day versus making that 50 calls a day. Going to that event or that networking event and meeting one person to trying to meet everybody in the room if possible. That's how you take massive amounts of action. So I hope that video was helpful to you. As usual, if you have any questions or anything you want to hear me discuss on this video blog, leave me a comment below or send a message to this email. As always, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.